You should drink it while it's still cold, Bumpy. Raymond's voice was steady, too steady. Bumpy Johnson lowered his eyes to the glass in front of him. Che 2 Margox, 1937. Ray Ray's favorite. Bumpy had taught him French wine back in '38, when they were running numbers together, when they were brothers, when betrayal was something other men did. Now that same wine sat waiting to kill him. The room was watching. The Italians were smiling. And Bumpy Johnson, the most dangerous man in Harlem, did the last thing anyone expected. He laughed. October 12, 1945, Small's Paradise nightclub, Harlem. The back room was thick with cigar smoke, heavy cologne, and the sorbite of cheap whiskey. 20 men crowded around a table too small for the egos it held, numbers runners, policy bankers, a crooked police sergeant, and 3 made men from the Genovese family who'd driven up from Little Italy just for this meeting. And at the center of it all sat Raymond, Ray Coleman, Bumpy's oldest friend, his most trusted lieutenant, the man who'd taken a knife in Sing Sing to protect him back in 1936, the same man who had just agreed to poison his wine for $30,000. Small's Paradise wasn't just another Harlem joint. It was where power lived, where deals were cut, where territory was carved up like Sunday dinner. The walls were deep red, the lights low. Music from the main room seeped through the walls like a distant heartbeat. Duke Ellington had played here, Billie Holiday had sung here, and tonight, someone was going to die here. Bumpy felt it the moment he walked in. The smiles were too wide, the handshakes too firm. Ray had been too quick with the wine, too eager to pour, too insistent that Bumpy take the head of the table. The Italians weren't even pretending anymore. Sal Benedetto sat in the corner, a Genovese enforcer with a scar running from his eye to his jaw. He cleaned his fingernails with a knife, slow, deliberate, making sure Bumpy saw it. This was supposed to be a peace meeting. The Italians wanted heroin in Harlem. Bumpy had said no. They didn't take no for an answer. So they bought a traitor. Ray Coleman, the man Bumpy had pulled out of poverty. The man whose sister Bumpy had saved from an abusive husband. The man who knew where Bumpy lived, where his money was hidden, where his mother went to church every Sunday morning. He sold him out. The toast was Ray's idea. Gentlemen, he said, standing glass raised, to new partnerships, to prosperity, to the future of Harlem. Everyone lifted their glasses, even the Italians who didn't care about Harlem's future, but loved watching a man drink his own death. Bumpy's glass stayed on the table, untouched. Ray's smile flickered just for a second, just long enough. You not drinking, Bump? He asked, forcing his voice light, casual like old times. Bumpy looked at him, really looked. The sweat on Ray's upper lip had nothing to do with the heat. His eyes kept darting to Benedetto in the corner. His hand trembled, barely, around his own glass. I'm savoring the moment, Bumpy said quietly. The room went silent. The kind of silence that comes when everyone knows something terrible is about to happen. But no, Ray laughed, but it sounded wrong. Hollow. What moment? It's just wine, brother. Brother, Bumpy repeated, letting the word hang in the air like smoke. He picked up the glass, holding it to the light. The wine caught the glow overhead, dark, deep, red as blood. This is good wine, Ray, Bumpy said. Cal 1937 Che 2 Margox. Must have cost you what, $40.50? Worth every penny for my brother, Ray said. His voice cracked. Funny thing about French wine, Bumpy went on, still not drinking. During the war the Nazis occupied Bordeaux. Stole most of the good vintages. He turned the glass slowly. This bottle survived. Somebody hid it, protected it, kept it safe from people who wanted to take what wasn't theirs. Sal Benedetto shifted in his chair. His hand slid toward his jacket. Bumpy's eyes snapped to him. You got somewhere to be, Sal? Benedetto froze. From the other side of the wall, jazz leaked through the door, soft, steady like a heartbeat counting down. A saxophone cried from the main room, slow, mournful like a funeral march. Bumpy set the wine glass down, untouched. Do you know what arsenic tastes like, Ray? The room went cold. Color drained from Ray's face. Bump, I don't know what you... Bitter almonds? Bumpy cut in calmly. Faint. Most people wouldn't even notice it in a wine this rich. They'd take a sip, praise the vintage, and be dead in 40 minutes. He stood. Every man in the room locked onto him. No one moved. No one breathed. But I'm not most people. Ray's hand slid toward his waistband, toward the .38 Bumpy knew he carried. Bumpy was faster. Not with a gun, with words. Don't, Bumpy said softly. It wasn't a threat, it was a fact. You pull that piece, Sal puts you down before you clear leather. That was the deal, wasn't it? You poison me, they kill you, and it looks like we took each other out. Clean, simple. No heat on the Genovese family. Ray Ray's hand froze. Sal Benedetto stared at Bumpy like he was looking at a ghost. How did I know? Bumpy smiled. It was the coldest smile in the room. I've known for 2 weeks. He reached into his jacket. Every man tensed. Hands drifted toward guns. Bumpy pulled out an envelope. Not a gun, an envelope. He slid it across the table to Ray Ray. Open it. Ray Ray's hands shook as he did. Photographs. His face went from white to gray. That's you? Bumpy said evenly. Meeting Sal at the Riviera Lounge 3 weeks ago. That's you counting $30,000. Another photo hit the table. That's your mama in that new fur coat. Nice coat. Shame where the money came from. Ray Ray looked like he was going to be sick. See, Ray Ray, Bumpy continued, lifting the wine glass again. I knew about the meeting. I knew about the money. I knew about tonight. He tilted his head. You think I walked in here blind? Then he said it. I switched the glasses. Ray Ray's eyes flew wide. He stared down at his own wine, the one he'd raised for the toast, the one he hadn't touched yet. No, Ray Ray whispered. Oh yes, Bumpy said calmly. The glass you poured for me, clean bottle. The one in your hand. He leaned closer. That's the arsenic. My people swapped them while you were busy welcoming our Italian friends. Bumpy nodded toward Ray Ray's glass. No drink. Bump, please. Drink. The word was quiet, but it carried 15 years of brotherhood and 1 night of betrayal. Ray Ray's hand shook. The glass rattled. Sal Benedetto jumped to his feet, gun drawn. Nobody's drinking anything. We're leaving. Sit down, Sal, Bumpy said without even looking at him. You think you're in charge here? Sal snarled. Bumpy turned slowly. In Harlem, always. Sal's finger tightened on the trigger. 1 bullet, Johnson. That's all it takes. 1 bullet, Bumpy agreed. And then what? He stepped closer. You think you're walking out of Harlem alive after killing me? Every black man within 10 blocks knows you're here. Every runner, every hustler, every shopkeeper. He smiled, thin and deadly. You pull that trigger, you start a war you can't win. Vito Genovese doesn't run Harlem, he never has, he never will. Bumpy reached into his pocket again and set a phone on the table. But if you don't believe me, let's call someone who can explain it. Sal swallowed hard. Bumpy dialed. The phone rang twice. Lucky, Bumpy said into the receiver. It's Bumpy Johnson. I got a situation that needs your input. The room fell dead silent. Lucky Luciano, the architect of the 5 families, the man even Vito Genovese answered to. Bumpy listened, then spoke again. I got 3 of Vito's boys in Harlem. They paid $30,000 to have me killed. Now they're pointing guns and acting like they're walking out clean. A pause. That's what I thought. Bumpy slid the phone across the table to Sal. Lucky wants to talk to you. Sal took the phone like it was a snake. Bus. Whatever Lucky Luciano said in the next 30 seconds drained every drop of color from Sal Benedetto's face. When Sal hung up the phone, his hands were shaking. We're leaving, he said quietly. Not yet, Bumpy replied. He sat back down, calm, unrushed. He pulled out a cigarette and lit it slowly like time itself worked for him now. Here's how this goes, Bumpy said, exhaling smoke. A man's life in Harlem costs $30,000. He glanced at Ray Ray. At least that's what you paid him. Sal stared. You're extorting us. I'm offering you a choice, Bumpy corrected. I can kill all 3 of you right here and start a war that bleeds both families for years. He leaned forward. Or you can pay me the same $30,000 you spent trying to kill me and we walk away. No war, no bodies, just business. His eyes locked on Sal. So what's it going to be? Your lives for $30,000 or your pride for free? Sal looked at his 2 men. They nodded. Well, get you the money, Sal said through clenched teeth. You already have it, Bumpy replied. Second payment for Ray Ray. Hand it over. Slowly, Sal reached into his coat and pulled out a thick envelope. Bumpy didn't touch it. He nodded to one of his men, who took the cash and counted it. 30,000. The man confirmed. Good, Bumpy said. Now you can leave. Sal holstered his gun and headed for the door. He stopped. Vito's not going to forget this? Bumpy smiled. Lucky told you to pay. You paid. That's the end of it, unless Vito wants to explain to Lucky why he's starting a war over a failed hit. Sal and his men walked out. The door closed. Silence. 5 seconds passed. Then Ray lifted his glass. Not because he wanted to. Because Bumpy was watching. Because every man in the room was watching. Because there was no way out. Ray tilted the glass. The wine touched his lips. He drank. It took 7 minutes. First came the sweat, then the shaking, then his hands clawed at his throat. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Bumpy didn't move, didn't speak. He watched the man who had once been his brother die from his own poison. Ray collapsed onto the table. Photographs scattered. The wine glass shattered on the floor. And Bumpy Johnson counted $30,000 in cash while his oldest friend took his final breath. When it was over, Bumpy stood, straightened his tie, and looked down at Ray's body. A man's life is worth $30,000, he said quietly. Make sure everybody knows if you cross Bumpy Johnson, it costs you everything, and I get paid either way. He walked out of Small's paradise that night $30,000 richer. Ray Coleman died choking on Betrayal. The Italians never tried to move heroin into Harlem again. And the next morning Lucky Luciano called Bumpy Johnson and said one thing: "You handled that right. Respect." What happened in that back room on October 12, 1945 became legend in Harlem. Not because Bumpy killed a traitor, plenty of men had done that. But because of how he did it. He turned an assassination into a payday. He turned a war into a business transaction. He made the Italians pay for the privilege of staying alive. No gunfire, no chaos. Just intelligence, patience, and the coldest justice Harlem had ever seen. Raymond Coleman's name was never spoken again. The $30,000 he was promised was buried with him. The $30,000 Bumpy took from the Italians. He used it to buy 3 buildings in Harlem and gave them to widows whose husbands had died working the numbers. Because Bumpy Johnson wasn't just about power. He was about principle. And the principle was simple. You come for the king, you don't miss. And if you miss, you pay. That was Bumpy's code, that was his rule, that was his legacy. The back room of Small's paradise stayed closed for 6 months. When it finally reopened, no one would sit at the table where Ray died. They say you could still smell the wine, still feel the weight of that night. But what really lingered in Harlem was the lesson. Bumpy Johnson didn't just survive, he won every single time.